We made this.
Hello and welcome to Pick a Disc, the podcast where someone picks a disc to talk about for whatever reason they want to. I'm your host Matt Latham, and I'm welcoming the guest George from the Song for When podcast onto this podcast to talk about the Golden Hour. No, not the Golden Hour, just Golden Hour by Kacey Musgraves. And if you listen to any other episodes, you know we're going to be talking about songs, we're going to be talking about the artists, we're going to be talking about all sorts of things. We're going to be talking about the history of Kacey Musgraves and her kind of backstory and previous genre of music, which personally I would have loved to perhaps focus on that one, but you'll find out a bit later on in the conversation. So, but before we play that, I'm just going to say, if you're not following us on the Instagrams or the Facebooks or the Twitters, or I don't think I'm on anything else. Yeah, if you're not following us on the social medias that I have a presence on, then look on the show notes and you'll probably find the links to them there. And there is also the Discord that you can join to go on, say hello, tell us what you listen to, etc., etc. And if any apps that you listen to podcasts on allow you to review them, again, commit opinion fraud, pretend that we're good, and just pretend and lie and give us 5 stars, and then other people can then just lie about us and give 5 stars, and more people can listen to the podcast and feel swindled that they was expecting a 5-star podcast when there wasn't one, but they'll go and rate us 5 stars. It's all part of my plan, you see. But I'm wittering on, so there's nothing left to do except let's talk to George. Alas, I think originally this was going to be the first episode to have 2 guests on instead of just a one-on-one conversation, but alas, Em can't make it today. So I have just George from the Songs for When team flying the flag for Songs for When. How you doing, George?
Hello, yeah, I'm good, thank you. I do feel a little bit like I'm missing my left arm. We are a bit of a double act, so I do feel I've never recorded anything without Em. This is very strange, but I am, as you said, I'm here flying the Songs for When flag, proud and loud.
Yeah. The only drawback being is that you might like being on your own too much, that you stage your coup and then just take over.
I wouldn't know. I don't know how to edit. I couldn't do it. I am, for all intents and purposes, a rent-a-gob, and Em is the real talent behind.
A rent-a-gob. No, I've never heard that phrase before, but I love that phrase, rent-a-gob.
Yeah, Em is the real talent. Em actually knows what she's doing.
Okay, so you heard it here so it's confirmed that George cannot stage a coup for a podcast to save his life. It's fine.
No, Em could do it on her own. Em could do songs on her own, but she could. I can't do it without her. Nope.
Yeah. As much as I could plan to teach you how to make a coup, I'm not going to. We're going to talk about an album instead.
Yeah.
And I think it's originally an album that both of you have picked, and as Em unfortunately isn't here, I'll be interested to see if you know much about the reasons that she would have picked it as well. But we're here to talk about an album, and we're going to talk about it for the next hour in a bit. George, let's tell the lovely listeners the disc that you've picked for today.
I have picked Kacey Musgrave's 3rd album, Golden Hour.
Why did you pick Golden Hour?
I love this album so much. It's very straight. I think probably it's weirdly the most peaceful album I know. It's so relaxing. I find that you can have it on at the loudest possible volume and you could still be calm and peaceful listening to it. It's a really strange one in that I know we're going to get into this, and sorry, hopefully it doesn't ruin the whole rest of the episode. I think of it as a whole body of work. So like picking I don't tend to listen to it. I don't tend to listen to songs on it from it on a playlist necessarily. Like for me, it is what an album is supposed to be. It's a whole complete body of work that works perfectly as 12 songs or so. I can't remember the exact amount of songs that are on the album. I just love it. I am a bit of a country music fiend, so Kacey is kind of what modern country music is all about.
No, I get that. This like topic's come up several times about individual tracks and listening to things as a whole album. It's very rare that I kind of listen to playlists. So listen to playlists. I would rather just sit down and listen to a album all the way through. So I fully understand that. So the idea or the concept of the album being like a body of work that you listen to, like a book or a movie, and this is something that's cropped up a couple of times in recent episodes, actually.
Oh, I think of it as like a vinyl album, as in, obviously I collect vinyl records, and there are some albums that are just perfect for vinyl because you don't ever want to skip a track, and obviously like you can skip a song on a vinyl album, obviously, but it's not what it's about. It's not what I think vinyl, put it on, you soak it in, it's like an experience.
Yeah.
And so Golden Hour is a great album for vinyl.
Yeah, so you just leave it and just realise it's too much effort to walk all the way back over to the record player to lift the needle and try and guess where the song would end and stuff. And
yeah, exactly. Look, kind of work out which groove is. You have to count the grooves, and then you have to. Nah, it's too much work. Just put it on and let it play. And Golden Hour works perfectly for that, and it sounds great on vinyl as well. I'm not here to promote it. I don't get paid for the amount of vinyl she sells for this album. But,
man, if that was the case, you'd probably be able to retire, I think.
I think we'll get into that.
yeah. But that's a concept we'll dig into a bit later on. But do you remember the first time you discovered or listened to Kacey Musgraves or learned that she existed?
Yeah, I do actually. I really remember. So as I said, I am a massive country music fan, and particularly Dolly Parton she's just the queen of country music, isn't she? She is country music for me, and I think a lot of people, she would be one of the first people you'd think of when you think of the genre. So those glamorous women with the piles of makeup and the rhinestones and the big hair and all of that, and Kacey Musgraves is kind of like a modern version of that. So I first stumbled upon Kacey when she guest judged on RuPaul's Drag Race. And she was there, she just gave her critiques. I was like, who is this? Never heard of her. Didn't know who she was. I was like, oh my Lord, who is this woman? She is here with her massive piled up hair and her proper country western look. And she's very southern and she's exactly what I'd want. And then a few weeks later, after that episode aired, she had a very successful night at the Grammy Awards. And I was like, oh well, I'll have to listen to this now. Like other people, I was like, so yeah, she had that massively successful night. So I kind of wanted to see what the hype was all about. I knew the name. I was like, I know that name. Oh yeah, she guest judged on Drag Race a few weeks ago. Right. I need to know more about her. And then this was the album that she did very well with. It won Album of the Year that night at the Grammys, the top award of the night. And I just hit play on Spotify, and I was just like, this is she's brilliant. I just loved it from start to finish. So that was it. And the more about her as a person, more I've learned about her as a person, I've kind of loved her more as time's gone on.
So, do you remember the first song that you pressed that played when you?
So yeah, it would be Slow Burn. It would be the first song on the album. This album.
This was the first album of Kacey Musgraves you heard then. So
yeah, that was kind of. I think this was when she really started to hit mainstream success outside of just country music fans with this album. And so, as I said, when she won the Grammy for this album, I just had to listen to it. And obviously I'm going to start with what is for a lot of people considered the top award in music. So I started there, and I thought, well, you start with the beginning of an album. I don't know any of her songs. I don't know where to start. So I just hit play on Slow Burn and went from there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And he just clicked immediately, and then
literally by track 3, I was like, I'm going to love this. I'm going to absolutely love this. And obviously I've gone back since and delved deeper and gone further into her music.
Yeah. I think before we talk about Kacey Musgraves herself, Kacey Musgraves, for me, I recognised the name, but never really listened to her before. So I was coming in kind of brand new. So I never listened to Kacey Musgraves before. But I just know that her name kept cropping up in different circles online and stuff, and that occasionally her name will crop up as, and particularly on quite a few podcasts I listen to, is like, oh yeah, I also kind of listen to Kacey Musgraves, and the way they used to talk about it was like a side kind of not a guilty pleasure, but just like a deviation from normal, what you'd usually listen to.
Yeah,
so.
I can see that. I think a lot of people who maybe wouldn't necessarily be country music fans do really like Kacey Musgraves.
Yeah. So so I never really listened to it before. So to the point where when I first listened to this, I was like, oh, this is a lot more country than I expected it to be. Part of me was kind of thinking, I was expecting kind of almost early Taylor Swift.
I was literally going to say, were you thinking it was going to be much more when Taylor Swift was calling herself country music? And I was sat there thinking, that's not country music. Thank you very much.
It's pop with the country twang. Or
yes.
Yeah. So.
Or like how Shania Twain in the 90s. That kind of vibe.
Yeah. That kind of like, because the way I think people talk about it, I always assume it's going to be kind of more of a crossover, dip into the mainstream kind of.
Well, yeah.
Top thing.
Although with both of those people, it's interesting with like Taylor Swift and Shania Twain compared to Kacey Musgraves is they'd both had, at least in America and Canada, success with their much more sort of pure country sound, and it was only when they really started releasing their music more internationally that they adapted that pop twang. So if you listen to like the American versions of both of their massive not debut albums, but their massive crossover albums, the American version is much twangier, if you like, than the version we got over here.
Yeah,
they popified them to appeal to the UK, and they didn't really do that with Kacey Musgraves. You just got the same version everywhere.
Yeah, they kind of amplified the slide guitar a bit more. Stuff. But so who is Kacey Musgraves? Kacey Lee Musgraves, born 21st of August 1988, is an American singer and songwriter. She's won 6 Grammys, including Album of the Year in 2019, 7 Country Music Association Awards, and 3 Academy of Country Music Awards. This technically isn't her 3rd album. It's
okay.
It's almost her 8th, I think.
I thought you were going to count. I thought you were going to say it's her 4th, because I don't really count the Christmas album. But okay.
Yeah, this album came out. Wikipedia thought this was a 4th album, but for what I want to talk about in a second, I'm going to maintain it's her 8th.
Okay.
So she released the 5th album, Star-Crossed, last year, and she's got quite an interesting kind of origin story. So I don't know how much you know of her backstory.
I know a little bit, if I'm honest, but not masses. What I know, I really like. If you wanted to go into that now, or if you had what you planned.
So she was kind of like before she went on to, I think there's like a show called Nashville Star, which I think which I never knew existed until like 30 minutes ago.
Is this Nashville X Factor, basically?
Yeah. So she was on series 5, I think, and she was like eliminated in like week 3, so she came 7th out of 10 people.
Wow.
That year. So season 5 in 2007, Jill hosted the show.
Jill?
Yeah, and Cowboy Troy returned to as co-host. I have no idea who.
No idea who either of these people are.
Judges included Anastasia Brown, who returned for a 3rd season. Joining her were country singers Randy Owen and Blake Shelton. Blake Shelton, I recognise.
Blake Shelton, I know the name, but he does The Voice in America as well.
Blake Shelton, I think, was Relo Kiley, I want to say.
I know Blake Shelton because he's currently married to Gwen Stefani.
And I think I might be getting confused. Someone else is probably a bunch of people shouting at me, going, "You don't know nothing, Matthew." And I'm going, "That's the point of the podcast, people. I know nothing." But yeah, she came 7th. And the names of the table I'm looking at for this year, you can basically tell the potential success of some of these by the fact if you can click on their name to go to a Wikipedia
article. That's always a good hit. Are they blue on Wikipedia or are they not?
Yeah, 1st, 2nd and 3rd and 4th don't have a Wikipedia page. 5th does. Someone called Whitney Duncan came 5th.
No, it doesn't ring any bells.
Kacey Musgrave got eliminated on week 3. And
wow.
Yeah. So,
idiots.
I was trying to think of... I can't think of a UK version of someone who was kicked out of a reality music show that early on.
I'm trying to have a little rack of my brains now.
There might be, but they're probably people that we can probably remember if you just mentioned a few names, but nothing who reached the success.
No. I mean, it's not even music related, but obviously Alison Hammond got evicted 2nd on Big Brother, but she's not a singer.
Yeah, well, yeah. But she,
Rylan. Here you go. Rylan from The X Factor.
I didn't realise he was... I didn't know he was on The X Factor. I just thought
he was the joke actor of the year, and look at him now.
I just thought he just emerged from the Dal Winton school of...
of lovable television personality.
Yeah. I can love... There's a love-hate relationship with Rylan at times. Sometimes...
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes... when he's in the right situation and the subject matter is okay, but then sometimes he just winds me up.
Oh, okay.
But before then, I think her family funded a self-titled debut album in 2007 called Kacey Musgraves, but that was in 2007. But before then, in 2000, she was part of a duo called Texas Two Bits. Lena Tatum, and this was in 2000, so she was about 12 or 13. And then in 2002 and 2003 released two other albums called Moving On and Wanted One Good Cowboy. One Good Cowboy, especially around the time that she became a national yodeling champion. She released a yodeling album.
I was going to say, where is the yodeling album when it already exists? Get it on vinyl, Kacey.
Yes, so what I'm going to do, because apparently this is what I do now, I'm going to quickly send you so the full album is on YouTube.
So excited. Where is it coming? Where am I going to see this?
This is great audio, but I cannot briefly talk about this without you experiencing this. This is track 3 from Kacey Musgrave's Wanted One Good Cowboy called If Only I Could Yearn to Learn to Yodel.
So this is her full yodeling album?
I think, yes, yeah. So
look how young she is in this picture.
Yeah, she must have been...
I have to say, I hate yodeling. I think it's such a horrible sound.
But apparently, she was a yodeling champion.
Wow, I am maybe reconsidering this whole album now. I don't have anything to say.
But apparently she won competitions for yodeling and stuff, and that's the bit I thought was amazing. Our partner was like, "Can we do an episode on this album instead?" So she has kind of particularly when she's from Texas as well, so she has kind of roots in the kind of musical culture of the country music scene. So she has that kind of almost bona fide authenticity, if you want to argue about it. So if anyone tries to claim that she's kind of I can't think of a better word, appropriating country music. Country music. She's from Texas.
She is, in fact. Country is as country does. That's a Dolly Parton song. I can't take credit for that.
Yeah. To the point where in 2000 she actually performed at an inaugural ball for George W. Bush as well.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sure it was contractual as part of a yodeling prize or something. I'm sure she had to do it.
She was about 12 or 13 at the time, so
we'll let her off. She was a child.
Yeah, we all do stupid things at 12 and 13. But
I didn't perform at George Bush's inaugural ball though.
The thing is, there are worse Republican people. There are probably worse Republican presidents to perform at.
Donald Trump.
Yes, cough. But from what I've been gathering, that she's got that kind of almost kind of born and bred in the country genre. So she kind of knows what she's talking about. She knows what she's doing. No one can really kind of accuse her of just co-opting a sound and
she's fully endorsed by Willie Nelson and Dolly Parton and Reba and some of the country greats. They she's fully endorsed by them.
Yeah, and this is the part where I kind of find Kacey Musgrave's kind of impact quite interesting, in that quite a few things that I read about is that she kind of turns and warps traditional ideas of what country music is on its head.
So this is actually part of why I really, really like her. So her debut single, which is called Shoot Your Own Arrow, I think it is, or something like that.
Follow Your Arrow.
Follow Your Arrow, that's it. One of the lyrics is Shoot Your Arrow. And in that is the lyric, kiss lots of boys or kiss lots of girls if that's what you're into. And I love that because, obviously for a country singer who's trying to make it in Nashville and, unfortunately, maybe it's not the most open-minded genre, she potentially jeopardized her mainstream career quite early doors. And she stuck to her guns and was like, nah, this is it. It's this or nothing. And she did it. And she still managed to have success with it. And I think that's part of why maybe she's broken away from just being successful in country music, because she has that about her as well.
Yeah, there's, I think it's The Guardian, mentioning that Musgraves is not your usual Nashville star. It was released, and this is about her debut, Same Trade, a Different Park. It was released just as...
Don't you love that album title as well?
It's actually, I never thought about it until you just pointed it out. That's a really good... that's actually a decent title. I didn't realise that. It was released just as Bro Country's lunk-headed reinstatement of at least some of the genre's core values, macho songs about boozing, babes, trucks and guns, was reaching its commercial zenith, and signalled the arrival of an artist not bent on I can't pronounce that. Not bent on iconoclasm?
No idea.
Yeah. Basically, an artist not focused on trying to carry on those kind of cultural, kind of like trucks, babes,
she's
but
modern country, isn't she? She's what the genres are going to evolve into.
Yeah, so, and this like little phrase, this article continues, her single Follow Your Arrow caused vast consternation amongst country radio programmers for advocating same-sex relationships and occasionally smoking a joint if that's what you're into.
That's it. She's very much like, live your life, do you?
Yeah. And this is the interesting bit, that the critical acclaim was off the scale here. Claim one writer was the woman who could save country music from itself, but her sales were solid rather than spectacular. Nevertheless, when even Bro Country's Band-Miser-in-Chief starts writing songs about tolerance and marriage equality, I Believe You Love Who You Love, Ain't Nothing You Should Ever Be Ashamed Of, sang Luke Bryan on last year's track Most People Are Good, it's hard to argue that things haven't shifted at least a little in her way.
Yeah, she's a modern country pioneer, and part of me wonders, is she saying things that some people in that business have wanted to say for a long time but maybe haven't had the guts to?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I think it's quite interesting that the pushback doesn't seem to... It's interesting that there doesn't seem to be as big a pushback or something about this, really, or at least it's caused some shift, unless it's just that she's part of a new generation of like country music fans that have grown with a little bit more openness in their beliefs of like other people.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas, they haven't had to evolve. They've grown up. They're the same age as Kacey, and so, when they just know they have the same moral system as Kacey because they've grown up in the modern world.
Yeah. So and like they're thinking, okay, we're going to alienate. Because people are going to be more open to be who they be. Like country music can like could possibly have an impact when we realise, crap, we've got to stop singing about traditional stuff, or at least not be linked to perhaps parts of. And I'm venturing to stuff that I don't want to talk about, but venturing into states that have. I want to use the phrase traditional in a very kind of with quotation marks. Beliefs. And
she's probably not going to be popular with everyone for that very reason, but it hasn't stopped her. Obviously. Yeah.
And I think there are things I think we've on the kind of Taylor Swift episodes on Reputation that I'm supposed to lay about the kind of like particularly like the impact that potentially that you could do to your career if you start.
Well, look at the backlash Dolly Parton got when she started advocating for the vaccine, and that's Dolly Parton.
Yeah,
if she's not immune from backlash, who is?
Yeah, but I mean, I think that particularly, I think as we get into the 20s, the backlash would not be is not as strong as perhaps people would expect it to be. There's definitely still backlash, and there's still backlash, and there's probably people who have probably just said, "Oh, I don't want to listen to her. She's advocating stuff I don't want to listen to."
Too modern for me.
Yeah, too modern. Yeah, too modern. But again, what's quite interesting is that people are starting to link that other music artists, like for example, like the article I was just quoting from, had slowly started to incorporate kind of similar things that Kacey Musgraves was singing about a couple of years before, and and it's interesting to see that impact might be felt. So I found that quite interesting to read about.
Oh, I love that.
And again, those kind of themes, like there's some of those themes that kind of echo into the album in certain songs later on that we'll talk about. But so the album, I've not listened to any apart from the Yodeling album. I've not really listened to any of her earlier stuff. So
So she gets less country as time goes on. So Same Trailer, Different Park is really country. Pageant Material, which is one of my favourite albums, I love it almost equally to Golden Hour, is, it still has a fiddle and still has country isms in it. Golden Hour is much more sort of country pop. And then by Star-Crossed, it's like a whole different thing altogether.
Okay. So there's definitely a kind of like, to me this feels like it's the most country song that we've covered on the podcast so far, and I think the only other podcast that's ventured into country, Reputation's a pop album, so
a pure pop album.
Yeah. I think there's like one song that kind of like harkens back, but I can't remember off the top of my head what that is.
Is it Delicate?
I think Delicate's like a very kind of.
Yeah, no, I think she re-recorded Delicate, and that version is the version I prefer to listen to, and that version is very country.
Oh, okay. I think the closest I got on the podcast so far was the Scud Mountain Boys, all the way back, Tracy from We Dig Music, all the way back in, it's 2020. Yeah, it was, that was recorded in March 2020, because it was the last podcast I recorded in. It's the last podcast I recorded in person, actually. Yeah. And that was, but they're kind of based in like Massachusetts, so they're still kind of near the Heartland area. So that felt like a lot more Heartland rock than country. So that kind of felt like a mixture. So that was kind of almost 1 foot in country, 1 foot in the Springsteen Heartland rock type thing. So this is the closest we've got to kind of a country album, and if I'm honest, country's not a genre that I'm much a fan of or really listen to, if I'm honest. I think country there's country pop crossovers that I probably listen to, or songs that have elements of country in it, but I've never really given country much of a listen to. I think I used to be quite into folk music, kind of like, which I think is the British version of country music, is folk. But I never really kind of delved into it. So this was like kind of like, not the first album, not the first country album. I'll guarantee I've listened to something, but this was like one of the kind of first dips into kind of what country or Nashville, that kind of Nashville kind of music is. Because I can't really think of anything that was like pure country I've gone to before. So this is like an entry into a different genre I'm not familiar with.
It's a pretty safe entry point, I'd say, because it's still got some pop musicisms to it as well.
Yeah, it's very soul. I think it's very soulful as well. I think it's a very kind of contemplative, relaxing album.
Yeah, I'd agree. She wrote it as like she was falling in love and like got married, and like, it was all written around that time of her life. So it's quite a hopeful album, I think, as well. Quite joyful at points.
Yeah, it's quite, so there's quite a lot of like a phase. As you said, it's like an album. There's like an almost it's not a concept album, but there's almost like a narrative going through it about kind of love and relationships, and just like growing to know someone and that kind of thing, echoing through it all, which is nice.
Even funnier because between this album and Star-Crossed, she got divorced. So Star-Crossed is all very much about her divorce.
Yeah, unfortunately, I read that fact before I listened to it for the first time. So
so it tainted it.
Yeah, so it's but then again though, there's a nice irony to listen to it. I think when you listen to it, going,
she's so in love, isn't she? Like when you listen to the lyrics, she clearly loves her husband from the songs she's singing about him.
Yeah, but it's a nice kind of capsule, kind of time capsule of that moment. It's like how Spice World is a time capsule of Cool Britannia in 1997. So this is the Spice World.
That is one of my all-time favourite albums, Spice World, and I talked about that on another podcast. I love that.
Spice World's great, and the movie gets better with age. But again, I'm not going to dive into that. But basically, so this is the Spice World of the Kacey Musgraves discography so far, and
I mean, it was her first and only UK top 10. Like, that's amazing. And like the fact album of the year at the Grammys, it won every award it was nominated for that year. It's kind of like her crossover album, I think, which took her from being just another country star to being Kacey Musgraves.
So this was was one of the most lauded albums of that year. It's kind of funny because I'm pretty sure, kind of funny since the last episode of this podcast was talking probably about the most lauded album of 2014, which was The War on Drugs, which is again which is on Heartland rock as well. So I'm currently travelling west through things, but then the car's going to break down when the car's going to break down. Unfortunately, the trip's going to end when you find out what the next episode is going to be, people, in about 2 weeks' time. But I'll cut this bit out, but it's the South Park movie soundtrack. But
South Park movie soundtrack.
Yes.
Iconic. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so that's going to follow this. So that's what I was alluding to anyway. Anyway, yeah. So if there's an awkward edit, I've just told George what the next episode is. So,
I'm really intrigued to know what you thought, because you keep saying like you'd never listened to Kacey before, and it's really like the first proper country album you listened to as well. I'm really intrigued to know what you thought, or is that a closely guarded secret that you don't tell?
In terms of the album, I didn't hate it. I didn't dislike it. It's I don't know. There's part of me was kind of, I don't know, maybe I was half expecting a kind of more upbeat song to turn up at some point. So at some points I think it's very ballady. I think I sometimes a lot of my music is slightly more angry.
Right, okay. Yeah, and this is, like we said, she's fully loved up. My advice to you, Matt, is listen to this on a gorgeous sunny day in the garden, put your feet up, have it on in the garden with the sun like beating down as you're sipping whatever alcohol you like to drink. Yeah. And like let it wash over you then. That is like the perfect time to listen to it.
Okay, I should try that. But I think
what it's for.
Yeah, to put it into context, you had your anti-Valentine's Day episode, and then like the day after the day it was released, I listened to it and then just basically tweeting at you all these kind of indie sad songs. So, which is kind of like the anti of this album. So that's what. So I think that if that doesn't tell people what my mindset is, but there's a lot of, I mean, say that it's not my kind of, it's not the kind of album I'd listen to. Because it's too sedate. I kind of like something where that's what kicks in and stuff. But
I get you.
Yeah, but I think like. Example, I think when you get to tracks like High Horse, I think was quite interesting because there's slightly more of a beat in there.
That's kind of like the moment at the concert where she's like, "Everyone on your feet." I'm doing High Horse now.
Yeah,
it's a moment to. It reminds me of when I went to see Adele, and she opened with "Rolling in the Deep" and not "Rolling in the Deep," because that was at the end. She opened with a couple of up-tempo songs, and then she just went, right, everyone sit down now because it's depression here on out. Like she got everyone on their feet, got everyone going when she first came out on stage, and then she's like, nah, right, that's it. I'm doing ballads now.
Yeah, like the drummer can bug off now. So.
Yeah, or it's going to be a soft, just a soft, like one of the, what are those drums? They're not even, you know, the brushes that people play drums with sometimes.
Yeah, the weird kind of, I don't know what they're called, but yeah, they make that kind of nice, kind of like rustling sound.
Yeah, and that's what she was like, right, these are getting involved now. That's it. And that's kind of like Kacey. I imagine her coming out like she does all these slowies, lovely sway, have a little sway, and it's time for High Horse. Right, everyone, we're having a dance.
Yeah, I think, but I say I didn't hate it. There's a lot of interesting things that were starting to happen, which kind of gave me interest. Like when there's like electronic elements and you start kicking in a few of the tracks.
On Oh What a World.
Yeah, and there's like a vocoder which I think is that the same track where like
that's on Oh What a World. Yeah, that's how it starts.
Yeah,
with the vocoder effect.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. What I usually do is that I start playing it on the drive to work.
Right.
I'll listen to the first half of it while I'm driving to work and stuff. And I think at one point that came on, and I thought I'd moved to a different album.
Yeah, but I find, although it is out of place, it also isn't at the same time. Mm-hmm. It fits with the vibe of the album whilst also moving it on.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like, was like, oh, hello.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but
the album, like the tempo of the songs tend to pick up for like the final 4 or 5 songs, I think, of this album.
I think it's like it slowly starts to incorporate more different elements of like different more elements into them to kind of build things up and stuff. So like when you get to like, kind of like High Horse, and it turns into if ABBA went to Nashville for a day.
Yes. It's almost like it's a slow burn, Matt.
Yes, I actually saying that. That's the kind of thing I had in there. So, this is what I had written down about the song "Slow Burn" because it's a slow start to the album. You can say it's a slow burn, and in brackets I put expect insert sound effect of crickets if you can be bothered.
I love that it's called like she's clearly singing about her romance and her like dating her then husband by that point. But also like the song is perfect. There must be a word for that where the song does what the lyrics, like the music does what the lyrics are doing, because it's exactly that.
Yeah, they're kind of like, I'm not sure. I don't know what the word is.
There's got to be like a proper musical term for someone that actually knew what they were talking about.
Yeah,
there's got to be a term.
Yeah,
for it.
but there's like very uncountry like flourishes in the songs, and yeah, like all these extra electronic elements and stuff. And part of me was thinking that if Taylor Swift had never crossed over into the pure pop, would she have done something that sounded like this?
I don't think she's cool enough.
Oh, okay.
My husband is the biggest Taylor Swift fan in the world, so if you want to cut that out,
no.
Otherwise, I'll be writing my breakup album.
I don't know. I might make that the focal points of the of the advert.
I don't know. I think Taylor's your clean cut country girl, and Kacey is your rebel.
Okay.
She's the naughty country girl. You know, she openly talks about how she wrote a couple of songs on this album whilst on acid.
Yes.
Whereas Taylor Swift isn't doing that. I mean, if she is, she's not talking about it.
But yeah, there's a lot of interest. Again, it's that down to, and it feels weird saying a song authenticity because sometimes that word gets thrown out so many times in different ways. But I can't think of another word to describe it. Again, as we was talking about, that she kind of grew up. She'll bleed country. She'd bleed the
I feel
area
like,
and stuff.
Although Golden Hour is her least country album to date when it came out, it's still very clearly you can see the growth of an artist from the first two albums, skipping the Christmas album, which is it's great at Christmas, but it's not part of her. It's not part of her growth as an artist, and then. So it kind of is there. And that's why Star-Crossed, although I don't love it as much as I love her previous albums, it totally makes sense to me as to where she's going. It wasn't a big shock that she was suddenly doing more poppier sounds, if you listen to where her music comes from.
Yeah. So, and I can totally see that this would be a good entry point into the genre, I think as I said before. So, if we move on to some of the tracks, which songs jump out at you when you think of this album? But you said...
Okay.
So you said that... And what's interesting when you said that you kind of see this as like a sit down and just let it play through.
Yeah.
And in previous episodes, mentioned about kind of like how you can kind of liken kind of books, chapters in books, as like songs where you wouldn't just you wouldn't just pick up a chapter and read a chapter of a book. But the other kind of thing that I was thinking of that I mentioned in previous episode, I think it might have been the last episode on the war on drugs, where like you could argue that you could use the analogy of TV shows where you've got a serialized story, but you could theoretically
there's still a good episode. There's still favourite episodes in.
Yeah.
No, I could do it, and I'll represent Em here a little bit as well. With some of her faves. But we both agreed when we were talking about this album, we've talked about it a little bit already, but Slow Burn, I think, is such a wonderful introduction to the album and her as an artist. And I think the lyrics are really clever with Slow Burn. Random as well, although maybe not random. Like, we're not in her head, but they feel random when you hear them. It's when she just starts going, when she starts singing about how she's like, in Tennessee, the sun's going down, but in Beijing, they're heading out to work. And I don't know what she means by that, other than time differences exist. But
when I saw that, I thought it was a case that, you know how people say, oh, it's always 5 o'clock somewhere, and then go to the pub.
Yeah, it's probably a clever way of saying that, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't think it's technically about drinking or voices that way.
No, I think it's the way I interpret it is like she's saying like it's like a first date song. So she's like, I'm all right with a slow burn. Like we can take this as fast or as slow as it goes, and we'll just roll with it. Like, so it's the start of a relationship, and so it's the start of the album, because it's like the start of the album, which obviously we know where the marriage went, but it's like the love letter to her marriage. This album.
There's an interview in the New York Times about the bar down the street don't close for an hour, and there's a great nice quote where she said, "My husband just pointed out the other day, you say the sun's going down, and then in the next line you say that the bar down the street don't close for an hour. Wouldn't it be like way later if there was closing in an hour?" And I was like, it ain't supposed to be literal.
I mean, she's also a marketing genius, because with this she released a candle called the Slow Burn. So, and then she, she's not stupid. There's merch opportunities with that as well. And we're not talking Gwyneth Paltrow candles. I'm sure it was a lovely scent.
Oh dear. But yeah, again, as you said, like the slow burn name and kind of the general idea of what a slow burn is, you could describe it as the slow burn into this album. So it's like there's a kind of link of the slow burn of taking things slow or just getting to know someone at the start of a relationship, and that again cleverly put at the first song of the album, so it kind of eases you in to something. And it's like,
slow burn does pick up its tempo by the end. It does what it says on the tin, but when I say pick up its tempo, it starts at a snail's pace and ends up at a turtle's pace. But that's a good thing. I like it for that reason. Like, it's a nice, easy, it's very chill, it's very summery. Picture myself relaxing with a nice cocktail. I mean, another song that I absolutely love on this album is Velvet Elvis.
Yes, I quite like that one actually. I like the I do quite like the internal rhyme of it. I quite like how
what's that? What does that mean?
So internal rhyme, it basically think Eminem, where like he'll just like kind of rhyme same things himself. So Velvet Elvis, Elvis.
Oh, I see. So it's not really a I get you.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah,
I like it because I like how it's kind of got a lot of countryisms in the lyrics and the music.
I think my attention was more on the lyrical side of it than the actual music stuff. But I just there's again as someone who's kind of like really into as a teenager I was really into rap music. That's my point.
Wow.
The just like the kind of like there's a very nice flow into the actual chorus because it flows, and again it's that velvet kind of rhyme scheme. So it's got Velvet Elvis.
Matt, I actually can't believe this. I just Googled Velvet Elvis thinking I'd get the lyrics to the Kacey Musgraves song, and it turns out Velvet Elvis is actually a famous painting of Elvis Presley on velvet.
Wait, what?
She's obviously singing about that because one of the lyrics is, I don't really care about the Mona Lisa.
Oh, okay. I need to find...
She's singing about the painting, or like, it's a metaphor for something.
Wow, okay. Wow.
That has completely passed me by all this time. I just thought she was... I don't know what I thought of Velvet Elvis was. I thought maybe like a more gentler Elvis Presley.
Wow. Okay.
It's actually a painting. That's why she says... Yeah. There's a whole Wikipedia page for it, which means it must be famous.
There's songs directly about the paintings include Velvet Elvis by Stir, Velvet Elvis by Drysdale, Velvet Elvis by Ruston Bowles, Black Velvet by Alana Miles.
That's Black Velvet's about.
That's not the song I think it is it?
What, Black Velvet in that little boy's smile? Maybe, I don't know.
Oh God, it is. Yes, it is. The Black Velvet. Wow. Okay. The Black Velvet with a little boy's. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So she says, I don't really care about the Mona Lisa. I need a Graceland kind of man who's always on my mind. I want to show you off every evening. Like, she's talking about the painting, but obviously the painting's a metaphor for...
Yeah. Wow. Velvet Elvis by Alex Winston and Velvet Elvis by Weird Yankovic in a whimsily old...
Give me an idea. Songs for when you just want to sing about a velvet painting of Elvis Presley.
Wow.
Got a whole episode here, haven't we?
Bloody hell. An entire level of the video game Psychonauts, known as Black Velvetopia, is dedicated to such velvet paintings.
Is it really famous, this painting? And it's just passed me by my whole life.
Wow.
I mean, it's an interesting painting, isn't it? You're going to have to put it on the socials or something.
Yeah, I mean, annoyingly, I've just, this is when I've just changed my kind of cryptic Sunday hype postings where where I'll just post a random thing and like, that would have been perfect just to post. But, wow. Yeah, wow.
I know.
That the Black Velvet song just blew my mind. I'm like, wow, I never thought I'd be talking about that, mentioning that song onto this, but...
Yeah, I don't know if I can carry on, Matt. I'm shaken.
Your whole belief system's been shattered.
I just thought it was a lovely song about... Like, I thought she wanted just like a traditional like a Memphis man. That's what I thought she wanted. Like, like a suave...
Oh man, you're gonna speak to Em and go, what happened? Did you enjoy the thing? He goes, I went on that podcast and he's destroyed what I thought about every single song on this album. He's destroyed my view of this album.
I am shocked. Actually, I just can't get over it. Wow. I mean, I could talk about another song that I really like from the album. It's the title track.
Golden Hour.
Golden Hour. I think it's brilliant. I just think it's like smooth, it's soft. It's like when the tempo of the album really, it starts picking up its pace, doesn't it? Because it follows right on after High Horse on the album. So you're about getting as high tempo as you're going to get with this album at that point.
Yeah. I think because it follows from High Horse. So like, it's... I kind of think that like, okay, it's like Kacey Musgrave going, okay, you've lied on your ass for about 40 minutes. It's time to start dancing and just remember you've got muscles you need to move. Here's a disco track. Here's Golden Hour, and then you can kind of just do your workout, and then
here's a bit of a bop, a bit of a bobby one for you to enjoy. I love it.
Yeah,
I love the song Golden Hour, and I love the idea of someone being, because she sings like "You're my golden hour," doesn't she? And I love the idea of someone like physically being that really nice time of day. Like that's what that person is to her, which I think is a really... Like she's clearly so in love throughout this whole album, which is really now, obviously, we'll come back and talk about Star-Crossed, but
But what's interesting as well is that, because the golden hour ends and then you got night and darkness and stuff, and when you think about it retroactively with the fact that she's no longer with the person that she decided that, there's kind of something temporary about the golden hour.
About someone being your golden hour, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really funny. When you Google Golden Hour by Kacey Musgraves, it gives you people to also search for, why is Golden Hour so good by Kacey Musgraves? But it says here, it's also a reference to her hometown of Golden in Texas.
Yes. Yeah.
As well as her personal growth and happiness with her marriage.
Yeah. There's also, the term golden hour is also used in medicine, which is again.
I did not know that.
Yeah, again, this is what happens when I end up going on Wikipedia. The amount of hours I've lost to Wikipedia is ridiculous.
For me, golden hour is that time of day, like in the summer, about 8 o'clock, where it's all the sun's setting a bit, but it's still up and it's golden. That's what it is. That's what golden hour is.
Yeah. So the Wikipedia entry for golden hour medicine is: the golden hour is a period of time immediately after a traumatic injury during which there is the highest likelihood that prompt medical and surgical treatment will prevent death.
I don't think that's what she was singing about, and I don't think that's what this album's about.
No, but it's one of those things where it's quite interesting where you've got the same kind of like different meanings for the same phrases and stuff. Again, listen to it now after the fact that she's now divorced. I mean, I want someone to revisit this album and then just with the idea that instead of likening it to the photography concept of the Magic Hour, likening it to the medical concept.
Yeah. So there's a song on her next album called Good Wife. And it's kind of like the polar opposite. Like she's regretting everything that went wrong. So she starts singing like, "Let's go back to the beginning. I just want to be a good wife. Help me let go of all the things that make me bad. At the end of the day, he's all I've got." She's like, "Help me be a good wife because he's all I need. He needs me." But she's like singing about how like everything goes wrong and he just wasn't the man she thought he was going to be. I mean, she's obviously made a lot of money off the marriage. Cause, good for her. Good for her.
But yeah, I mean, I think again I quite like the kind of iconography, and again I think it's because linking back to Golden, Texas. I think it's just like a nice few couple of layers into that. And again, because it's like I've read and watched a load of stuff about kind of how cinematographers will kind of purposely seek out the golden hour either in the morning or the afternoon just to get that kind of nice light stuff, and that. What's interesting as well, the golden hour kind of concept of that light as well. If not on this song, quite a few music. There's about 4 music videos I think from this album. Particularly in the song Rainbow, there's a lot. There's a lot of the orange and blue kind of thing. But in the, for example, the music video Rainbow, there's like a lot of the stuff that's happening is in like a very dark blue, color graded, cold thing. But Kacey Musgraves is in kind of very warm, light, kind of orange, yellowish kind of light, as you would see in the golden hour. And again in the High Horse video, the whole thing is washed in like a 70s look, but there's a golden hour style colour filter over everything.
I love the song High Horse. High Horse is... So I did say there are, I wouldn't put songs from this album on a playlist. For me, this is a whole body of work. I would put High Horse on a playlist. High Horse is a banger, and there are some really great remixes of it as well. Em featured one of them on the podcast in our very, very first episode. Never listened to it; the audio's terrible. But
I can't. I think your first season just doesn't show up on Pocket Cast, which is
it does. It's a separate. Oh no, it's only on Spotify.
Okay.
Don't listen.
Okay. I promise. I promise to say I won't listen.
Start with the Cheetah Girls 2 special and follow on from there.
Yeah.
That's where you're good. That's where you're going to find the good times.
But yeah,
but the song High Horse is brilliant. I love as well, like, because she says about how everyone knows someone who kills the buzz the second they open their mouth, and it's like, yes, we all do. Like, that is so, like, I think it's the only song on the album that kind of takes a break from being like, look how in love I am.
Yeah, there's something very singly about it, as in like it feels like it's meant to be
it
a
feels
single.
Like, I remember watching an interview years ago with a singer, I can't remember who it was, and they like finished their album and they took it to the label and they were like, it's brilliant, but there's no singles on there. We need you to write us a single. It was Sarah Bareilles, because then she wrote the song Love Song.
Yes.
Where she says, like, I'm not going to write you a love song just because you asked for it. And that was her response when they were like, we need a single. You need to write us a single for this album, otherwise we can't release it.
I love that song.
Golden Hour... Pardon, sorry?
I love that song.
Yeah, me too. It's such a good song, isn't it?
Yeah.
But not Golden Hour, High Horse is, I think, a great song, but it is a little bit like she was like, right, I need a single. There needs to be a radio-friendly song on here as well.
Yeah, and there's a nice kind of blend of that kind of country and disco-y thing. As I said earlier, it feels like if ABBA went to Nashville for a day, they'd probably walk out with High Horse. And I was trying to figure out what you'd call this, but the portmanteaus that I came up with sound really wrong. So I had distry, which sounds too much like dysentery, and contro, but I'm not going to mention. So country and disco.
I think I remember hearing her describe it once as space country.
Oh, okay.
And I can feel that, this album especially. Like, I can get that for her.
Yeah, space cat. Yeah, because you got the kind of almost like electronic elements. Doesn't feel like it, like very some kind of space like in terms of what you expect, kind of like sci-fi music to perhaps be. But no, but the electronic elements to it, the kind of disco-y, kind of 70s feel to it.
She's clearly got a lot of influences, hasn't she, across all of them?
Yeah, there's like you got kind of like a 70s kind of pulp vibe to it, which kind of like, I like it, and I quite like that it kind of offshoots you, particularly near the end of the album. It's near the end of the album as well, where
like you're like nice slow bops, and then Here's High Horse.
Yeah. So it's just basically saying, yeah, come on, you've lied down too much. I need you to start moving. I don't want you to start suing me for all the sore muscles you're gonna get.
I imagine a lot of Kacey Musgrave's audience might be enjoying substances whilst watching her.
Okay. But then again, some of these songs apparently written under the influence of LSD, like the song "Mother," which.
Which is weird, isn't it? Because that's like a love song for her mum.
Yeah, and 1 minute 8, it's like Kacey Musgraves must have listened to the podcast and went, okay, I need to find the anti-Latham limit. So for those,
I need an interlude. It's an interlude.
It's almost like an interlude, but it's an actual song. It's like a full song. There's no hook or chorus, but kind of like a nice kind of like, I don't want to say transition, but because it settles around the middle of the album, and it's nice.
Yeah, it does. I do think, although like I would say, and I am obviously a fan of this album, I don't feel like there's any filler. It doesn't feel like any song she's like, I just feel, every song feels like it serves a purpose for the album and the whole body, as opposed to there being any songs on there which were just shoved on to fill space.
Yeah, I think it like feels like it's there and like deliberate. So there's like so it's kind of like a moment to not just be about falling in love with just someone. It's just kind of also kind of appreciate who like other people around you, like your mum as well, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. So yeah, but it's just the fact that she wrote it while she was on LSD. That's the bit that just made me laugh.
Oh yeah, I wonder what she was thinking. I wonder what was going through her mind.
In the Guardian review of the album, there's a quote where she sings, "I'm just sitting here thinking about the time that's slipping and missing my mother." She sings, albeit with a distinctive twist. It was apparently written after Musgrave's mum sent her a text with a photo of her hands, in which the singer-songwriter received while she was tripping on LSD. An experience the song also describes: bursting with empathy, I'm feeling everything. It's the music.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Colours.
It's actually quite literal, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, so like kind of like, I mean, I've never done LSD. I don't plan to do LSD.
No, it's not on my to-do list either. But
yeah, there are other things on my to-do list before I eventually say, yeah, I'm not bored enough. I want to try some acid. It's very, very it's very, very low on the to-do list.
The police aren't listening, Matt. Don't worry, you can.
Oh, okay, then I'll just take the collection of LSD I've got back on the desk. I don't have LSD, people. Honestly, yes, from like all the way back from like Beatles albums, where like, or the kind of stereotypical kind of imagery that you have, like when you do like where people take acid and then like people see colours or wavy. Yeah,
or I'm even thinking about, like in The Simpsons, where Homer has like a bit of an acid trip and everything gets very bright and like rainbowy and coloury like that. It's exactly that. Yeah. It's like a stereotypical idea of what that looks like.
Yeah, although that said though, what would a 1 minute 18 song about his mom written by Homer Simpson be like?
Well, he's got mummy issues, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So
yeah. So probably just time just for one or two more songs. Which other songs do you want to briefly mention?
Oh, okay. So I would probably want to say, I mean, I love Wonder Woman. I think that is a great one. And again, I'm. It feels like I'm sitting more towards where the up-tempo end of the album, but they're the ones I think because that's where you finish the album on. So it's where they really stick in your mind. I love Wonder Woman, and I really like Oh What a World as well. That's the trancey kind of with the auto-tune moment on there as well.
Yeah, and there's like the band, like the kind of band. Like the banjo kicks in. I do.
Yes.
So the banjo, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a banjo as well. I'm like, oh yeah, country people use banjos as well, don't they? Like, duh. And I'm like, it just threw me for a second. I was like, he threw me for a second. He goes, oh, there's a banjo in here. It's a country album, Matthew. And it's not just it's not folk music that just uses banjos.
I just think it's, like I said, it's very, I think of this as just one whole collection. So talking about individual songs is quite strange because they all flow into one for me, and that's not in a bad way. I don't mean that in a they just everything blurs into one on this album for me. As in, I mean it as in they're meant to. It feels like they're meant to come and go with each other and pass on to the next one really nicely. But those are the favourites. Em made a point when we were talking about this album in advance of telling me about how much she doesn't like the song Butterflies.
Okay.
And it's particularly because when she worked in retail, it was one of the songs on the retail playlist. And so as a result, she heard it maybe 5 or 6 times a day. And so I was like, oh, retail ruining songs since the day it was invented. It just, for workers at least, there are certain songs that are just completely ruined. And Butterflies is that for M. I remember that was very specific. I hate that song for that reason.
Okay.
There's nothing, she's like, nothing against the song. Like, if I hadn't had it ruined for me, I would really like it. But
it's been overplayed.
Yeah, it's been overplayed for her, and like almost like on the clock every 3 hours. Oh, here we go. It's time for Butterflies again.
Okay. Any others just before we move on, or?
Yeah, like Rainbow is also a really special one, I think. And I know you touched on the music video when we were talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
Rainbow's I think it's a really special song. I think it's quite a really nice, it's the end of the album. It's the final song of the album. She brings you full circle almost, I think, with that she's, start with Slow Burn, you've built and built and built and built to the point where you've gone High Horse, Golden Hour, and then she calms you back down again with Rainbow. But lyrically, I think it's got underlying meanings of her support of the LGBT community in there, because of, obviously there's the pride flag, and the rainbow is what the pride flag essentially is. So there's that element of it, and it's about, looking up and thinking about there's a better day to come. And that's kind of like what I think about Rainbow. She's clearly singing to someone who's been through a rough time, and she's been telling them to, put your umbrella down and enjoy the sunshine a little bit. Enjoy the rainbow now that the sun's gone. The rain's gone, sorry.
Yeah, there was apparently it was written 6 years before it was released.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it was before it was released as its closing track, so she'd written it a long time ago. So she said it began as an encouraging note to herself, but transformed into a message of hope for anyone in the midst of dark times. It also,
yeah, you can see that. It's quite literal, I think, of compared to a lot of the songs on the album, which are a bit, oh yeah, this could be, Velvet Elvis clearly is about a painting that we didn't know existed.
Yes.
Whereas Rainbow is
about the TV show.
Much more more literal. What's this, sorry?
I say it's about the children's TV show from the 70s, but I was joking.
It's much more literal, I think, lyrically. It's much more exactly what she says she means with that.
Yeah. I think also, it's got the kind of a vibe of a song that would play on the end during the end credits of a film, but it's the second song that usually kicks in. So by the time you reach the song,
yeah, I can see that. It sounds of though, because it was the final single from this album as well, and she performed it at the Grammys the night where she killed it, and so it's kind of like the end, wrapping up that era of the album. This, because I think a lot of singers and artists and musicians think of their albums as eras, and then they conclude them. And so I guess that night at the Grammys for her was the conclusion of Golden Hour, because the tour was done, the album had been out for about a year and a bit by that point, and so she performed the final track at that night, and it was the final single then released the next day after the Grammys, and it's the wrapping up of this album for her.
Yeah,
this album campaign, mission accomplished. I won the Grammy. This album is a success now.
Yeah, I think it was, and it was a change of pace for how I kind of like albums to end. I think it's I can kind of appreciate how the kind of decision to leave it last, because it leads on a kind of slow it's a slow winding down.
It's quite a hopeful note to it.
Yeah, it's a hopeful note to it. Yeah,
I think maybe a traditional track listing would end on High Horse.
Yeah, just building up to a climax or something
yeah, building up to the big moment, where she takes you to the big moment and then calms you back down again.
It's a different way to end a podcast. No, it's a different way to end an album. Yes, an album, not a podcast. Different way to end it, and which I found quite interesting anyway. In comparison to what I would usually expect from what I want an album to end like.
I get you. I can get you, but I like that for me it fits the whole vibe of the album.
Oh yeah, definitely. Again, as you said, it kind of brings it back to the start, so you can kind of and I quite like it. I do like when albums are kind of designed to do this, where if you have it on repeat, that you finish Rainbow and then it feels like it transitions back into Slow Burn, so it kind of tricks you psychologically to not realise you're listening to the album
back
again.
In the day where sometimes CD players would just start the album again and you maybe wouldn't notice.
Yeah,
because
so
of that.
yeah, and I quite like how it does. I'm always a fan of when albums do that.
You get stuck in some kind of Kacey Musgrave's golden hour purgatory, just listening
Yes, it's
to
like
the whole album.
yeah, it's
on
like
loop.
you're stuck in 1 hour.
Golden hour.
Yeah, into the golden hour. We've spoken about quite a lot of the fact that it's won a lot of awards. It's won a lot of Grammys. It won a lot of Grammys. It won quite a few awards. So it won Album of the Year in 2018 at the CMA Awards, Apple Music, Grammy Awards. It won Album of the Year at the ACM Awards, which I have no idea what that is. Academy of Country Music, CMT, which is the only thing about country music that I'm aware of because it was the country music channel that was on.
Oh yeah,
it was CMT and MTV were the only music channels that used to be on analog Sky way back in the 90s.
Random.
Yeah, it won. So for the CMT Music Awards, it won Female Video of the Year for Space Cowboy. No, it was nominated for Female Video of the Year. It was nominated. Rainbow was nominated for Video of the Year. Song of the Year for the CMA Awards. Nominated for Rainbow for Song of the Year. Music Video of the Year, it won the same year, and it was nominated for Single of the Year for Rainbow. And it reached quite a few top lists. It was number 1 on American Songwriter, Apple, Entertainment Weekly, People, Sputnik Music, Stereo Gum, Taste of Country, Up Rocks, The Village Voice all put it as number 1. Quite a few people put it as number 2. And it was like pretty much nestled in the top 10 for a lot of times. Everything. I think it was like 8th in the top 10 best albums of 2018 by Time magazine.
And I came to it so late. I didn't listen to it I'd never listened to it till February 2019 after it won the Grammy.
Yeah, and I think on Decade and All Time lists, Billboard put it as 3rd in the 25th best country albums of the 2010s and put it 6th in the 100 greatest albums of the 2010s.
Wow.
That was from Billboard. Rolling Stone put it 11th.
Hang on, quick one. If they've put it as 3rd in the country music and then 6th, that must mean the top 6 had 3 country. Because surely if it's... Does that make sense? Like if they've put... Because surely if she only came 3rd only, but she came 3rd on the country music one and 6th on that, then that must mean the 2 country music ones must also be above her on the norm, on the generic list. Otherwise, then she should have topped the country list.
I'm just.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just curious now. So yeah,
I mean, I know America, like country music is it's the biggest country for it is America.
Yeah. So okay, I'm on Billboard's top best albums of the 2010s. 6th is Golden Hour. 5th is Kendrick Lamar, "To Pimp a Butterfly."
Not a country album.
No, this isn't the country album. This is.
Oh no, sorry. No, I mean yes. I'm trying to pinpoint the country albums.
Number 4 is "Red" by Taylor Swift. Which
okay, that's.
I think
that was like her last country album.
Yeah. 3rd is Frank Ocean's "Channel Orange." Number 2 is Beyonce's "Lemonade."
It does have Daddy Troubles on there, doesn't it? Which is a country song.
Ooh, this has not dated well.
Oh no.
Number 1 is Kanye West, "My Dark, Beautiful, Twisted Fantasy."
I'm not a big Kanye West fan, but I know people love that album, don't they?
I think that was from 2010, so that was older. That was old. That was younger.
Yeah,
Kanye.
that's kind of one I know. I don't massively know a lot of his music, but I know that's one people talk about.
But yeah, so I'm out of curiosity, I'm just going to find out which 2 albums are the country album.
Because otherwise that doesn't make sense, does it?
Yeah, unless like people change their mind.
Yeah. Is it voted or is it based on
I think it's stat
sales?
picks.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, immediately, number 3 is Kacey Musgrave's "Golden Hour." Number 2 is "Speak Now" by Taylor Swift.
Wow.
And number 1 is Chris Stapleton, "Traveller," who I've never heard of.
No, I mean, Speak Now is a great album, but it must be because I guess maybe whereas Red and Golden Hour are much more crossover albums, and Speak Now is much more country.
Yeah. But, I always find it quite interesting to...
Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent. Feel free to highlight and delete all of that.
No, that's interesting. I'll be interested to see which, particularly for albums that are rated so high. I've always, a couple of times I've actually been on lists like that where I go, which other albums of the year is that?
Yeah.
But
for that logic, if she's the highest, with that logic, so she came 6th on the not generic, but I mean like non-genre based one. That means that makes her the highest rated country album, which means she should have been number 1 on the country album list.
unless someone at Billboard reckons Red is a country album. But and then again, though, people can change. People probably change their mind. They probably
Who knew people were allowed to do that?
Yeah, they probably got to when they wrote that 2010 one after 2018, going, you know what? 2 years of listening to this album. I reckon it's probably the best country album, so we're going to stick it in number 6.
Stick it in that list. Yeah, I get you.
It was certified platinum in Canada. It was certified silver in the United Kingdom with 60,000, and it was platinum in the US with at least over 1 million sold.
Impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's done quite well for itself. So
yeah, she's counting that money all the way to the bank.
Yes. So have you ever saw her live?
No, we have never seen her live. So since we've become fans, she's never done like a proper UK tour.
Okay.
So we've not been able to. She is doing a concert at Hampton Court Palace this summer, but I don't know if we'll get round to going to that or not. I would really like to see her live. It's just not been something that I've been able to get to yet. When I was there, unfortunately.
She might name some shows. I think sometimes they do. Sometimes artists can probably name shows closer to the time because she's also playing Glastonbury. But then again, I don't know whether sometimes I think, and don't quote me on this, I think there might be certain exclusivity things where they're saying, oh, if you come in here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe if she's in the country for Glastonbury, she might announce a few dates.
Yeah, then again, though, she might just only be here contractually say, oh, you can only play so-and-so.
Yeah, like an exclusive, Glastonbury exclusive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because like, there's probably people who probably would go to Glastonbury to see Kacey Musgraves. But, no, yeah. So
I'll watch her on the telly. I'll catch her on the telly.
Yeah, it should be on the iPlayer.
She will indeed.
Yeah, she'll be one of those that will appear on the iPlayer. And we've briefly touched about other albums briefly, but if people have listened to Golden Hour, where do you recommend they go next?
So it's really difficult for me because my other Kacey Musgraves album that I really love is Pageant Material, but I would say where to go next is Starcrossed. Follow it on.
Oh, okay. So is that
go on? Follow the
just carry on and just ignore the stuff in the review mirror.
Yeah, I got Pageant Material is brilliant. I really, really like it. There's some such brilliant country songs on there. But I think whereas Golden Hour has more poppy elements, I think if you're coming at it from that angle, move forward, go on to Starcrossed, which also then follows, it's the sequel, it's the divorce from the marriage. So you've got the next part of the story on there.
Okay. And then go back for the prequels.
Yeah, then go and enjoy, single, young, free and single Kacey with Pageant Material.
Yeah, and then go and listen to Wanted, 1K, but basically listen to the yodeling albums afterwards.
Yeah, listen to the whole yodeling album. That's where I would recommend you go next, the yodeling album.
Yes. Okay, so we're nearing the end of our conversation, George. So we get into the very important question now, which is the song for the Spotify playlist. Now, for people who've not listened to us before, what this is I'm going to ask George to pick one song from this album to be immortalised forever on the Spotify playlist Hall of Fame. I can't veto the choice, so he's got free reign to choose whatever song he wants, and I can't veto it. So, Judge.
Me and Em were talking about this when we were going to be before we weren't recording together, and we were trying to agree on a song to put on together.
Okay.
And we were both coming up with different suggestions, but I think you've really got to go with the pop choice. I think you've got to go with High Horse.
Okay, High Horse.
I think High Horse is I think it's the most accessible way in. You get to hear a bit of her voice, you get that country flavour, and then, maybe not the best representation of the whole album, but it is a great song. Yeah,
I think it's not. Yeah, so it's not gonna. If you listen to that in isolation, you're not gonna get an idea what the song is, the album, as you said. But I think it is it's still like a kind of like nice, interesting song. And I think it'd be interesting to see if people listen to that first and how they take it, because listening to it in the concept in the context of the album, I think it highlights it. It's a real standout piece. So it'd be interesting to see if anyone listens to that, if that's their first entry into
the world of Kacey.
Yeah.
What do they think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So High Horse joins the playlist following The War on Drugs in Reverse, Big Girl You're Beautiful by Mika, and Hunting High and Low by Aha.
Big Girl You're Beautiful. Matt is so funny, isn't he?
Yeah.
I love that episode because, you just think, who would I not pick as a big Mika fan?
Yeah.
And there we were, just loving it. It was brilliant.
But then again, though, this latest series of SB10, I think he actually mentioned it. He actually brought up Mika at least a couple of times before he even picked it for the disc. So, but
they're brilliant, those two. So much fun to work, so much fun to record with.
Yeah, and on the day of recording, I think on the day of recording, the day after recording this, my episode of SB10 drops. So so if you've not listened to that yet, go and listen to that.
And ours is out soon as well. If we're going to plug up, we're now an SB10 support podcast.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We'll just big up them. You've got to support other podcasts.
Yes. And so that's it. So we're pretty much at the end of the conversation. The only thing left to do now is if you want to advertise what you want to advertise, if you want to, and just sell Songs for When to everyone.
Oh, yeah. No, please. If you've liked this, if you like me, you'll like me even more when I'm with them. It's two best friends and we pick a playlist theme. Then we go away. We pick 5 songs each that best suit that playlist theme, and then we go together and just sort of chat about it and have a laugh. And sometimes we go way off topic. We've just done a Disney songs episode where we ended up on a tangent about air fryers. We've done an anti-Valentine's special. We made our own Star Wars musical, which was ridiculous and fun.
So pretty much having Darth Vader turn up to let me entertain you.
It's exactly what you think. Exactly what you think would happen.
Actually, I really want someone to do, the scene at the very end of Rogue One where he suddenly appears and he's just like badass killing a bunch of people. I want
he's
someone
going to sing "Let Me Entertain You." That's his signature song.
Yeah, I think I want someone to put "Let Me Entertain You" with that actual
over
thing.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that must... I don't know. Maybe it doesn't exist. I'll make it exist. We do... Yeah, sometimes the themes are very specific. Sometimes they're very niche. That means the same thing, doesn't it? Sometimes they're very broad. Sometimes they're very niche. We cover things that we really like and hope that you like them too. It's so much fun. I love it. I love doing it. And you can find us at Songs for When Pod on both Instagram and Twitter. And we're always chatting to Matt on Twitter as well, so you can find us there.
Yeah, I can't recommend Songs for When enough. It's a lot of fun.
You.
It's a lot of fun, and it is quite entertaining to kind of interact afterwards.
I feel like the playlist, although the premise of the show is to make a playlist. Sometimes the playlist becomes secondary to what me and Em want to talk about.
Exactly. Yeah, and as I'm an advocate for tangents, so.
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
and as
a tangent.
Yeah, and as someone who's still trying to debate whether to buy an air fryer, it was very, very.
Oh, Matt, I cannot recommend it enough. I made croissants in there the other day.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, you buy that just roll dough that you can buy.
Yeah.
So I bought that, made it into shapes, and then I just chucked it in the air fryer. It was fantastic.
Wow.
Minimal effort, maximum fun.
Wow. Okay. That yeah. Bake your own croissants. That's might have sold it for me.
Yeah, the smell your house smells fantastic as a result of it.
Oh, that's
I don't work for any air fryer. I'm not affiliated with an air fryer company, but I would recommend them enough. And Chinese chips, reheat them in the air fryer and they go crispy again. That's what I'm telling you. Oh my God, why have I done this again?
Hey, no. Hey, pick an air fryer's coming soon. So
it's the crossover podcast you did not know you needed.
To be fair,
talk about air fryers, review them, and tell you about some fantastic air fryer recipes.
To be fair, driving home listening to one of the other podcasts that I kind of guest host on occasionally, Wrestling Comatose, and they're talking about vindaloos and curries and stuff. And in my head, I suddenly had the words "pick a dish." And I was like,
that's the spin-off podcast.
Yeah. And I was like, no, Matt, don't. You've already got too many podcasts you're getting involved in.
Yeah, you are busy. You are booked and blessed, Matt.
Yeah. It's like when people say, do you like this? Do you like this TV show? When do you do a podcast with him? I'm like, yeah, so check out Songs for When. I can't recommend it enough. George and Emma, great. It's a lot of fun to watch. And again, a lot of the fun is the interactions afterwards. So Yeah, so you can follow them as well. And we are now very much at the end of our conversation, George. And I was going to say, it's been a lot of fun to chat with you, finally chat with you. And thank you for coming on and introducing me to Kacey Musgraves.
Thank you for having me, and we will return the invite. We will have you on Songs for When for sure.
You've been listening to Pick a Disc, and I've been your host, Matthew Latham. Our theme music is Pump by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Pick a Disc is hosted by the We Made This podcast network, and you can find them on www.spreaker.com/user/WeMadeThis. You can find the Pick a Disc show site on www.spreaker.com/show/pickadisc. You can find us on all the usual social media type places like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter under Pick a Disc. You can also email us on pickadisc@gmail.com. Until next time, happy listening to all those discs that you are picking. Goodbye.
Hello everyone, this is Tony, Network Chief of We Made This. As you know, our podcast network brings together a brilliant assortment of talent who talk about all kinds of pop culture content, such as the episode you've just listened to, or maybe you're just about to listen to. We're not going anywhere, but we'd love to keep the lights on for even longer if you're able to support our network on Patreon. For just £2 a month, you get your name in lights and the satisfaction of knowing you're helping us produce more great audio. And for £3 a month, you'll get your name in lights, but you'll also get access to an exclusive bi-monthly podcast from the We Made This talent pool on podcasting, pop culture, and, well, you tell us. We'll take your suggestions. For less than the price of a coffee per month, you can help keep We Made This going. Just head to patreon.com/We Made This. That's patreon.com/We Made This. And get the ball rolling. Now, back to your scheduled programming elsewhere on We Made This. Read and Buried podcast.
I think I nearly burst a blood vessel in my eye. So violent was my reaction to what the abomination that is. The arrogance of Kenneth Branagh, dear God.
I just can't believe that they gave the moustache such a backstory.
Oh,
and
I'm
it's
pissed.
a shame because if you can, and this is a big if you can switch off from Branagh's portrayal of Poirot, which I know you can't, frankly, and aren't willing to, that actually, this, Death on the Nile and his version of Orient Express were really good adaptations for the casual viewer, but yeah.
I wish you could see my face right now.
I know. What Agatha was very good at as well, keeping mysteries going, I suppose.
We Are Starfleet, a Star Trek podcast.
For example, an episode where we may have revisited Tilly at Starfleet Academy teaching the cadets would have been a really nice break in the action in the second half of the season.
I don't disagree. I think that's certainly something that as we kind of look back and analyze this season as a whole, there might be some opportunities that we can point to say, like, yeah, maybe they could have done something there to flesh that out.
We dig music.
Davey Havok is actually the singer in My Purple Agony, who are a fictional band in Harvey Girls Forever, which is a cartoon that my daughter watches.
Wow, that is amazing.
He's only in one episode, but I watched it and it was like, oh yeah, that is definitely him because he sings in it.
He is the source of so many amazing misheard lyrics. There's one that he sings, "No need to fear me, I'm just another monster," which is very melodramatic, but he sings it so that it sounds like he says he's just another lobster. Which is not the best one. The best one is one of that side project that I mentioned, where lyrics are actually, I am reaching, I something or other. But he sounds like he screams, you've greased me, I shat myself. Which is fucking magnificent. My girlfriend at the time when we did this was massively into AFI, so I used to spend a lot of time being like, I'm sorry, what did he just say? Did he say something about being greased?
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.